October 21st, 2015, Marty McFly boarded the DeLorean and he traveled into the future to save his children. Now, even if you have never seen the films, I'm sure you are more than aware, as today the internet is abuzz with Back to the Future Day. I myself will be rejoicing by watching all the films, as I am a huge 80s buff. I love the films, I love the music, I love most of the fashion, and I hate all of the hair. Gotta have something. Now, although I absolutely love Back to the Future, it's one of my all-time favorite movies, it also brings about some negative emotions, as it reminds me of bullying that I was the victim of. And when you think of bullying, obviously you think of peer-on-peer bullying. But in my case, I learned firsthand that it doesn't necessarily have to be the case, because I was bullied by a teacher. When I was younger, I moved around quite a lot, and I actually attended a few schools. And when I was about 7 or 8 years old, which I believe was 2nd or 3rd grade, I attended Shaw Avenue Elementary School in Valley Stream. And I was assigned a teacher, Mrs. Post, and she absolutely hated me. I have no idea why. I'd racked my brain so often, even to this day, to figure out what I'd done to cause this woman to hate me so much. But hate me she did. She took great pleasure in my pain and went out of her way to torment me. What child doesn't come home claiming that their teacher hates them? Whether it be they give them too much homework or they're too stern, whatever the reason may be. And I was no different. I would come home and I would plead with my mother. I would beg her to do something because my teacher was absolutely making my life hell. And I'd say, please, Mom, my teacher hates me. Please help. And I would get the standard mommy response, your teacher doesn't hate you, and whatever reason that the mother may give. I obviously gotten that reason, and I'd given up hope at that point. That is until the infamous Back to the Future ice cream sundae party day. Now, the whole scenario was, it was the day before, I believe, Easter vacation. And then after that, we were going to be off school for a while. So many of the classes were going to be having a party. And our class was going to have a ice cream sundae buffet. And we were going to watch Back to the Future. And I was really excited about that. And being a kid, who doesn't want to have an ice cream buffet? There were tables set up on the side, and every kid had brought in fixins from home, any kind of topping that would go on the ice cream. The one stipulation with participating in the ice cream sundae / Back to the Future party was that you had to make sure that you were good and you didn't get sent to the office. And once the teacher made that stipulation clear, I just had a sinking feeling, because as history had foretold by this point, she had found whenever we had any sort of event, she would find a way to make it so I couldn't participate. And I made sure that I was going to be on my absolute best behavior, and tried as I might, I got sent to the office for saying the word toilet water. It was snack time in our class, and during snack time you actually got about 20 minutes where you could basically have a free period and you can socialize amongst the other students, sit at the other students' desks and have your snacks, which I was doing. A couple of my fellow classmates had come to my desk and we were having our snacks, and I had learned earlier that day eau de toilette, and please excuse my abysmal French accent, but eau de toilette on the perfume bottle actually translated to toilet water. And seeing all these glamorous ads with these models dousing themselves in this toilet water cracked me up to no end, and I couldn't wait to share this with my fellow classmates, to which I did. And I had asked them, do you know what eau de toilette on the perfume means? And obviously I shared them. I said toilet water. What was the natural response in children? They cracked up. They thought it was the funniest thing ever. So being a child, you make somebody laugh, you are going to be absolutely tactless about it, which I was. I wanted to make them laugh again and again. So I must have said toilet water like 4, maybe 5 times until Miss Post either got annoyed or found her catalyst, because she immediately grabbed me by the wrist and silently, without saying a word, walked me to the main office and sat me in a chair. But if you think that's the end of it, you'd be dead wrong. I sat in that office, and what seemed to be about an hour and a half, 2 hours, just beating myself up and feeling so sorry for myself that with just 2 simple words that I managed to destroy and annihilate any opportunity that I had to celebrate and party that I had been looking forward to the entire week. And suddenly, just before the party began, Mrs. Post appears in the door. And she escorts me out, and I am ecstatic at this point because suddenly I realize she's changed her mind. I'm going to be able to have ice cream and watch the movie after all. But it wasn't until I got to the classroom that I realized that Mrs. Post had other ideas in mind. So upon being ushered into the classroom, I'm confronted with my classmates sitting in the dark, TV prepped for the movie to begin, and they've already got their ice cream sundaes, which they're eating. And I look behind the TV against the blackboard and I see a chair. And immediately I knew that that chair was intended for me. This woman had it planned for me to sit in this chair completely out of eyeshot of the TV, but facing the class so that I can watch them enjoy the film and enjoy their ice cream. And as I sat there sobbing into my hands, she sat at her desk, and I just sort of shot a pleading look over at her. And I will never forget the expression on her face. She sat there like this, looking at me, completely pleased with the pain that she's caused me. And the whole time I'm just wondering, like, why did you take me from that office? For whatever reason, she felt it was necessary. I mean, was there a point to this? Like, was there a lesson to be learned here? I have no idea. But the next thing that happened was completely insane. Now, to my left is the door to the classroom. It has a window, door's closed, and my mother had absolutely no reason to be in school at all. My mother picked me up from school, but, once the bell rang, I would go outside and I would meet my mother at the car. She had no reason being in school at that time, let alone stood at that door looking in the window. But there she was, taking in the entire situation, and I can see the anger in her face. Mrs. Post stood there blissfully unaware of my mother stood there at the door because she's still taking in this, watching me cry. Just, in hindsight, massively sadistic. But my mother opened the door, and Mrs. Post looked up, and she just turned white as a ghost, and I suddenly had a feeling of pleasure. My mother finally sees what she has put me through. And Mrs. Post made a beeline for the door before my mother could take 2 steps in, and she pushed her out of the classroom. Physically pushes my mother out of the classroom. And I'm looking out of the window because it's one of those doors that close automatically. And I see the exchange between the two back and forth, and Mrs. Post taking a sort of defensive position, I guess trying to explain her side, why she's done what she's done. But, my mother, having none of it, opens the door, scoops me up, and she takes me to the main office. I don't quite remember the words that were exchanged there. As we were leaving, we're walking out of the school, and she says, "You will never have to see that teacher again." And after that, I was promptly taken to Carvel, where I was given an ice cream sundae. Carvel's an ice cream shop, by the way. I was taken to Carvel and given an ice cream sundae, and she made good on her word because, granted, we didn't have much longer left of the school year, but once I returned, I was in an entirely different class. After my mother bared first-hand witness to what she had, she knew everything that I'd been telling her was 100% true. So she made an appointment with the principal and gave them a detailed account of everything that transpired, and guess what? No action was taken. I received no apology, so shame on Shaw Avenue Elementary as well for condoning this sort of behavior. Regardless of what your reasoning may have been, you have absolutely no justification for exploiting your authority for the sole purpose of bullying and tormenting a child. You have no business being around children, let alone being an educator in a school. Alas, many years have passed, and one can hope that through the years she's managed to mend her ways and mature, because I can say with absolute certainty that living in the day and age that we do, not only would she find herself being put through the courts, but any parent witnessing that sort of behavior against their child, she'd find herself being put through a wall. All that negative stuff out of the way, I'm going to enjoy my October 21st, and I'm going to watch all my Back to the Future movies, and I'm going to have all the ice cream I want. And if you were here, I promise I would share it with you too. So, bye.